Lava Kuribara Gopijana Balaba Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtauttara Satvasisi Mare Se Bhakta Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kahasya Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Samavita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya. Saraswati Devi Gurmani Vitarnana Vishesha Shanimadi Pasha today's time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 18. Diti vows to kill King Indra. Text 6. Retaha. Sishituhu. Kumbe Urvasyaha Sanidhau Drutam Revatyam Mitraha Utsargam Arishtam Pipalam Vyadhat Reta Sishi Chatu Kumbe Urvasya Sanidhau Drutam Revatyam Mitra Utsargam Arishtam Pipalam Vyadhat Reta Sishi Chatu Kumbe Urvashya Sanitau Drutam Revatyam Mitra Utsargam Arishtam Pipalam Vyadat Reta Sishi Chatu Kumbe Urvasya Sanitau Drutam Revatyam Mitra Utsargam Arishtam Pipalam Vyadat Sishi Chatu Kumbe. ladies. Retaha semen. Sishichatu discharged. Kumbe in an earthen pot. Urvasya of Urvashi. Sanido in the presence. Trutam flown. Revatyam in Revati. Mitra Mitra. Utsargam Utsarga. Arishtam Arishta. Pipalam Pipala. Vyadat begot. Translation. Upon seeing Urvashi, the celestial society girl, both Mitra and Varuna discharged semen, which they preserved in an earthen pot. The two sons Agastya and Vashishta later appeared from that pot, and they are therefore the common sons of Mitra and Varuna. Mitra begot 3 sons in the womb of his wife, whose name was Revati. Their names were Utsarga, Arishta, and Pipala. Purport.
Purport. Modern science is trying to generate living entities in test tubes by processing semen, but even long ago it was possible for semen kept in a pot to develop into a child.
So I know we passed 5 verses, so if you'd like to go back, read the Sanskrit and the translations. Bring us up to date.
Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Prishnistu Patni Savitu Savitrim Vyahritim Trayim Agnihotram Pashum Shomam Chaturmasyam Mahamakan. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Prishni, who was the wife of Savita, the 5th of the 12 sons of Aditi, gave birth to 3 daughters, Savitri, Vyarhiti, and Trayi, and the sons named Agnihotra, Pashu, Soma, Chaturmasya in the 5 Mahayagyas.
So, Aditi, wife of Kashyapa Muni, correct? Aditi, wife of Kashyapa Muni. Okay. And he had another wife named Diti. But Aditi, she gave birth to 12 sons called the Adityas. And they're very famous, very glorious. All the demigods are coming from them. So, her sons, one of them, Krishna was the wife of Savita, the 5th of the 12 sons of Aditi. Okay, so now we're going to hear about these. Let's go on, text 2.
Text 2. Siddhir bhagasya bharyangha mahimanam vibhum prabhum ashisham chavararoham kanyam prasutasurvatam. Translation: O king, Siddhi, who was the wife of Bhaga, the sixth son of Aditi, bore three sons, named Mahima, Vibhu, and Prabhu, and one extremely beautiful daughter whose name was Asi.
Ashi.
Ashi.
Okay. Let's go on to text 3.
Text 3 through 4.
3 and 4.
Dhatu kuhu sinivali rakachanu matistata sayam darsham ataprata purnamasam anukramat agnin purishyan adhata kriyayam samanam tara charshani varunasyasid yasyam jato brighu puna. Translation: Dhata, the seventh son of Aditi, had four wives, named Kuhu, Sinivali, Raka, and Anumati. These wives begot four sons, named Sayam, Darsha, Prata, and Purnamasa, respectively. The wife of Vidhata, the eighth son of Aditi, was named Kriya. In her, Vidhata begot five fire gods, named the Purishyas. The wife of Varuna, the ninth son of Aditi, was named Charshani. Brighu, the son of Brahma, took birth again in her womb.
Yeah. So Varuna, he's demigod in charge of waters. One of the top, one of the biggest, important, most responsible demigods. In another place, in the Puranas, it describes that the Adityas, 12 Adityas, are actually sun gods. And each one rules the sun for 1 month out of the year. So they go to the sun and then they spend the whole month, and each one has his own group, because there's a society woman that goes along for the ride on the chariot, and there's a Rakshasa who protects, and there's a sage, and there's a whole group, and they go, it's their turn for 1 month. We may wonder sometimes, how is it that the sun could, because he never stops traveling. The sun never stops. Everyone knows the sun moves constantly, 16,000 miles per second. It doesn't stop, ever. That's why we have day and night, because of the movements of the sun. The sun is not the reason we have day and night, is not because of the rotation of the earth. The earth doesn't rotate. The reason we have day and night is because the sun orbits. And when the sun is on the other side of the universe, then the sun's rays don't reach Earth. That's one thing. And another thing is, that's not correct. The sun's rays do reach Earth because Earth is close to Mount Meru in the middle of the universe. So there's always sunshine on this planet. But when there's darkness, when there's night, that's because the sun is on the other side of the earth. So there's no sun. That's why you can chart the path of the sun, the path of the sun as it hits the earth, it's exactly opposite to the path of the sun planet or the sun chariot that's as it's traveling around. So these 12 adityas, each one takes a turn, and a question would have come up. It was a question in my mind as I got involved with studying Vedic cosmology, that he travels all the time, never stops, because, and then it turns out that they take turns, these 12. And each one has some specific rays. Altogether, there's about 100,000 rays. When we say rays, sun's rays, we mean energies also. Just like we have X-rays, gamma rays, ultraviolet rays, infrared rays. These are some, but the rays from the sun are about 100,000 when you divide by 12. So each one has their own specific rays that are unique to that month. So each month has its own unique. That's a little information about the sun and the adityas. So the adityas are all sun gods. Vivishwan is also one of them. If I'm not mistaken. We'll see. We didn't hear the first 5? But they're discussed in the previous chapters, the sons of Aditi, because we just started with the 6th or the 5th one. Must have been discussed earlier. Okay.
Text 5.
Continue.
Valmikishcha Mahayogi Valmikad Abhavad Kila Agasthyascha Vasishtascha Mitravarnunayor Rishi. Translation: by the semen of Varuna, the great mystic Valmiki took birth from an anthill. Bhrigu and Valmiki were specific sons of Varuna, whereas Agastya and Vashishta Rishis were the common sons of Varuna and Mitra, the 10th son of Aditi.
Yeah, so the verse we read today is that Urvashi, the society woman, society girl from heaven, celestial, she was so attractive that these great sages, these are sages, they're not just ordinary, not even just ordinary demigods, they're not Kshatriyas. You might say, well, Kshatriyas are very passionate, they could be attracted, they could be agitated. But in the case of these, Agastya was a great sage, and Vashishta. Oh, excuse me, Mitra and Varuna. Take it back. So they were Kshatriyas. Mitra and Varuna are both Kshatriyas, because the sons of Aditi. So then perhaps you could say they were especially inclined towards the mode of passion, and such a beautiful woman. So by just her presence, they were overwhelmed, and they couldn't control their vital fluid, and so they both discharged just by seeing her, just by being in her presence. We can thank the Lord that we're here on this planet, that we're not in the heavenly planets with our present, well, of course we couldn't be with our present consciousness in the heavenly planets. But we can see how difficult it is because, as Prabhupada points out, the women there are thousands of times more beautiful. And the men are also thousands of times more handsome and more wealthy and more qualified. So everybody is attracted to the males that are attracted to the female. In other words, it's not like everybody goes to Svargaloka for self-realization. They're not interested in that. I shouldn't say they're not interested. They're interested in tandem. They're pious, so they want self-realization, but they want sense gratification at the same time. Therefore, they're called sakama. They're devotees, but they're attached to sense gratification. And sense gratification means primarily women and money and fame and power. That's what they want. And so the Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, He's yayatamam prapadyate tangstataiva bhajamyaham. He's so accommodating. He reciprocates as in accord with the desires, with the surrender of the living entities. So these are devotees, and they're greatly powerful personalities, very pious, to get to have a body like Indra or Varuna or Mitra. One has to be very pious because one gets all kinds of mystic powers. Indra is so powerful, he's so endowed with mystic powers. And all kinds of powers that he's practically, in this world, his lifestyle is similar to Krishna's. He's so able to do, he can defeat the greatest demons. When Indra can't kill a demon, that means Krishna, there's only one left, because he's the top fighter. And even he, like Narakasura, he went personally to Krishna and said, please, and when Krishna was in Dwarka, he said, this demon, he stole the earrings of Aditi. He's also the son of Aditi, Indra. Therefore, a name for Vamandev is Indranuja, means the younger brother of Indra, because Bali Maharaj had defeated Indra, and there was nothing he can do. And there was nothing anyone could do. So the Indra, anyway, that's another, is asking for the Lord to appear to deal with Narakasura. That Krishna did personally, not in his form as Vamandev, but Krishna from Dwaraka. That's a wonderful pastime, one of the great, glorious pastimes that Krishna performed when he was on this planet. My point is that to become a demigod like Indra or Varuna, one is very, very pious and very capable of management. They can manage basically the whole universe. So Krishna is very practical. Here we have someone so powerful, so qualified, and devoted, but he likes to have many women, he likes to have much wealth, he likes to have much fame, much power. Okay, he can stay in the material world. And he can do service. And by doing that service and associating with Narad Muni is the main, he's Devarshi Narada. He's the sage amongst the demigods. But he's the main guru for the demigods. And the main guru for the asuras is Shukracharya. So by getting association with Narad Muni and the other saintly persons, they become purified. And by doing service, pleasing the Lord, not only that, but they get association with the Lord Himself. He appears in so many different pastimes with the demigods. When the demigods and the demons decided to churn the ocean of milk, the Lord appeared in how many different incarnations in that pastime? He appeared as First he appeared as they needed a pivot. So Kurma. So the Lord appeared as tortoise incarnation. No, even before that. Yeah. And they had a problem that they were going to use Mandara Mountain as the churning rod, but they were trying to carry it and it was too heavy. So the Lord, is that Ajita? So then he appeared as Ajita and he flew on the back of Garuda. Garuda picked up the mountain and carried it easily. That's the second incarnation. Then when the nectar was churned, then it was brought by another incarnation, Dhanvantari, another incarnation of Vishnu. He brought the pot with the nectar, Amrita. And then the demons, they stole it from him. But then because they were demons, they quarreled amongst themselves. They were fighting and they couldn't agree on who would drink the nectar. So the Lord appeared as a fourth incarnation, Mohini Murti, as a woman, because that was their weakness, a beautiful woman. So when the beautiful woman incarnation of the Lord appeared, they became so captivated, just like here the demigods became captivated. They also became captivated by Mohini Murti. So much so that they surrendered the pot of nectar that they had worked so hard for. And even she told them, she said, I don't think this is this is not a good idea. You're putting your trust in a woman who's loitering here and there, a young woman who's unprotected. You're putting your trust in. They said, yes, we trust you, because she was so beautiful. they lost all their good sense, all but one, Rahu. Rahu was more intelligent. He knew something's amiss here. So he disguised himself. Anyway, she took the pot of nectar and she says, let me just give some to these impatient demigods. They're not as patient as you are. I'll give them a little bit and then I'll give the rest to you, the bigger amount. So they said, yes. So then she gave the nectar to the demigods, but as she gave it, Rahu dressed up like a demigod and sat between the moon god and the sun god in disguise. And he also drank. They were all drinking, quaffing down the nectar of immortality. It was not just nectar, it didn't just taste good. It made them immortal for a day of Brahma. Therefore they're called the Amritas. They're Amrita, they don't die. So Rahu wanted that. And he drank it. And then they discovered, the sun god and the moon god said, wait a minute, this is Rahu. And then Mohini Murti, he, she. In this case, he took his Sudarshan chakra and decapitated Rahu, but the nectar had already gone down to the neck. So the head became immortal. What are you going to do? That's the potency of the nectar, that it would last for a whole day of Brahma. So then the Lord said, all right, let it be a planet. So that Rahu planet he continues to attack. That's the eclipses. When the eclipse doesn't happen on a regular basis, it happens occasionally when he attacks. When Rahu attacks the sun and the moon, that's called lunar and solar eclipse. So, the Lord has made this wonderful arrangement for every soul to serve them, to serve Him, or to not serve Him for as long as they like. If someone doesn't want to serve the Lord ever, the Lord says, I cast them down repeatedly into the lower species. They can stay there forever. They can just go on. And they can be satisfied in that, just like we see. The worm in stool, if you take him out of the stool and say, why are you staying in this stool? This is so disgusting. It smells terrible. Come on, I'll give you a nice place to live. No, he goes right back to the stool. He's happy. This is how abominable the consciousness can become when one turns away from Krishna. Krishna bahir mukahana bhogavanchakare nikatasta mayatare japatiyakare. Even Indra once was cursed by his spiritual master to become a hog on earth because of his lust. He was too lusty. So he became a hog on earth. And he forgot that he was Indra. And he became completely enticed, or shall we say fascinated, captivated by the female hog. She wasn't even beautiful. Don't think that it's the beauty of the bodies that makes the difference. It's the lust in our hearts. Lust in our hearts goes with us wherever we go. So even in the body of a hog, the lust in our heart will make us completely just fall in love with a she-hog, a disgusting, stool-eating she-hog. And we'll think she's the most beautiful female because of lust. So it's not exactly the bodies, it's the lust that makes us become attracted. Therefore we have to, it's not that you just have to, whenever there's a woman, you just kill the woman or something like that. All right, I'm going to kill all the women, then I'll be free from lust. Or I'll go to the Himalayas, there's no women there, and I'll be free from lust. No, you won't. Because in your heart, lust is still coming. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the three sitting places. What are the three sitting places? Senses, mind, and intelligence. So that's it. You're taking your mind with you to the Himalayas. You're taking your senses with you, and they still are caked with lust, completely contaminated with lust. So you'll go to the Himalayas and you'll be thinking of, well, Susie or whatever her name is, or whatever their name, or even without the name, most likely you'll think of someone you had association with in the past. And then you'll lose interest in meditation because you'll want to enjoy your senses. So when we have to get rid of lust completely in the heart, not by the externals. You can't just avoid. The impersonalists try to do that. They try to avoid the objects of the senses. And they try to avoid it. It's not a bad thing to avoid it, but they don't have a positive alternative. So therefore, yenye ravandaksha vimuktimaninas tvayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhaya aruya krichtsena param param tata patanchito nadrita yushparangaya. Lord Brahma says. Because their intelligence is avishuddha buddhaya, it's impure. They're likely, they will fall down eventually, even from the Brahmajyoti. So, you need a positive alternative. And the positive alternative is not just to exist. Everyone's existing eternally. That's not sufficient. There needs to be engagement. There needs to be personal relationships. There needs to be varieties. Otherwise, we'll seek varieties on the material platform. And that's why the material world is here, for giving us variety. For those who don't want to surrender to Krishna, they can try to be the imitation Krishna. Indra's an imitator in one sense, but he uses his imitating tendency for service. Sometimes he gets, as you know, a little bewildered by his imitation, and in Garga Samhita there's a whole description, and the Harivangsha describes that battle between that pastime when Indra went to request Krishna of Dwarka to kill Naraka. So he did it. But one of the conditions was that Krishna agreed to do it, but he wanted to take his wife with him for the journey. His very special wife was Satyabhama. Krishna was completely captivated by Satyabhama. The description is given there. Whatever she demanded, requested, he would give her. So she wanted a parijata flower. because Rukmini had gotten a Parijata flower. And Satyabhama was ready to give up her life. She says, I can't live. Just give me permission to end my life. Krishna said, no, no, no. No. And he said, I'll satisfy your desire. So he took her with him on the back of Garuda. But when he killed Narakasura. After killing Narakasura, Krishna returned the umbrella of Indra and the earrings of Aditi, the mother of the demigods. And then he said, my wife has a desire for a Parijata flower, a Parijata tree, and I want to give her one for her palace in Dwarka, Indra. So actually, the pastime is quite involved. He sent Narad Muni as his messenger. He said, please request very humbly that Indra's younger brother is requesting that his sister-in-law has this desire. So it wasn't that he just suddenly came. He had proposed this in a very diplomatic and humble, respectful way. And Indra sent Narad Muni back, because Narad Muni can travel at the speed of light. So he's a perfect messenger, and he can remember everything, and he's so pure. And he gives advice too. He gives advice to both. For example, he told Krishna, he said, my Lord, I know you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you deserve this and everything, but Indra will never, ever give up the Parijata. And Krishna said, that's all right, you go. Nice. So he went. And sure enough, Indra very politely, sweetly said, please tell my younger brother that the Parijata tree is only meant for the heavenly planets, for Svargaloka. It's not meant for Earth. And there's many reasons. So they back and forth they had, and then Indra gave the reasons. He said, if the Parijata tree is on the earth, then people will not be inclined to perform pious activities to go to heaven. That won't be good. People will just try to enjoy. They'll stay on earth. They won't perform the pious activities that they need to acquire to go up to heaven. So he gave so many reasons. And gradually the tone began to change. And this went back many different back and forth. And finally, it got to the point where Krishna had spoken as much as he was going to speak. And he gave the message that, tell Indra that if he doesn't give the Parijata tree cooperatively, then I will smash his chest that is smeared with the perfume from Sachi's, from the daughter of Paloma's breast on your chest. I will smash it with my club. So then it was over. The fight had to happen. So they ended up fighting. Anyway, that's another pastime. Okay, so are there any questions on this?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. So this whole class reminds me, I have a question at the end of it, but it reminds me of a famous passage in the Bible in the book of John where Jesus tells Abraham's descendants, if you follow my teachings, then you will know the truth, for the truth will set you free. Then Abraham's descendants kind of essentially and arrogantly said, basically, like, do you have any idea who we are? We are Abraham's descendants, and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say we shall be set free? And then Jesus says, anyone who sins is a slave to sin. So the lesson I took from this is that the Abraham's descendants couldn't understand how they were slaves to their mind and senses. Manashishtani indriyani prakritistani karshati. So this is very similar to a verse in the Gita, of course, chapter 7, where Krishna says, this divine energy of mind consisting of the modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. And those who surrender to me can easily, cross beyond it. So in Prabhupada's report, he mentions that another meaning of the word guna is rope. We're tied by the ropes of illusion like slaves. And so my question is that Prabhupada mentions that only the Krishna or Krishna's representative can sever the ropes or shackles of illusion. So I remember one person asked me a while ago, how can we tell like a pure devotee or a self-realized soul or a bona fide representative who could free us from this illusion? What's the criterion that one could tell? How do I know this person can free me from my illusion? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, well, there's criterion. He has to be in disciplic succession. He has to be properly trained, educated, and he has to be practicing, controlling the senses, the mind. Vacha vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udaropasta vegam, etam venam yo vijayita dira sarvamapi mam pratibhim shishishya. Then he can take disciples. He's controlling the 6 pushing agents. He's heard the absolute truth. He's in disciplic succession. He practices it. These are some of the basic qualifications of a spiritual master. It's not an easy task to find. It's very rare. But there are such things. They are possible. And even if one is not necessarily a nityasiddha, an eternally liberated person, by sadhana, sadhansita, one can become perfect by following the instructions, following the practices of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Or there are some special cases where one becomes guru siddha, kripa siddha. By the mercy of the Lord or his devotee, one can become a pure devotee. Yes, another question. Back here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for class, especially the cosmological information is very interesting. I'm wondering if you can expand a bit on what is meant by common sons.
Common sons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their semen, they both kept it in the same pot. So the semen became the body of those, it mixed. The semen from the two. They were very intelligent. They knew the value of semen, especially their semen. So nowadays they don't know the value of semen at all. They waste it all everywhere. So they don't even know the value of children. They also kill those. So we have a crazy society that's so much in ignorance, not knowing the value of the most vital things. But they knew that they should save their semen and some great personalities could come. So they mixed together, and that's why they're called common sons of those two mixture. In other words, it wasn't that Mitra was the father of one, Agastya. Who was the other one? Agastya and Vasishta. It's not that you could say that his semen became the body for Agastya and his semen they mixed. That's why common sons.
And for families
It's
of
like common sons between a male and a female, because the secretions mix. It's the same thing. It's not just his son, but it's also her son.
For the families of demigods, is there child raising? Are the demigods born fully formed, or do they develop in some way from a child?
Well, it's described that they grow up very quickly. There's no child, and there's another description that they're not considered sinful by having sexual interaction, and they don't become pregnant except the last year of the life. Then pregnancy happens and the child grows, or the offspring is immediately. So it's a different process. A lot of sense gratification going on there. The discussion was made between Urvashi and Arjuna. I'll just briefly touch on that point because it's the same Urvashi. She was asked by Indra to give his son, Arjuna, pleasure when he visited heavenly planets. So she naturally was going to fulfill that instruction. Although there was a part before that, Arjuna, when he saw Urvashi, because she had also come to earth and become the mother of his forefathers. So he was so pious and so pure. He didn't have any lust for her, even though she never aged, so she looked as beautiful as when Agastya, or as when Varuna and Mitra saw her. So she was just same beauty. But she couldn't arouse Arjuna. But he looked at her, and it was noticed by her, and she brought the message to Indra that your son is looking at me. And Indra said, then give him satisfaction. He's come here as my guest, my son. So she went to him and proposed that I'm here to give you. I noticed you were looking at me. He said, yes, my dear mother. He called her mother, and he wouldn't look above her feet. He said, Mother, I have absolutely no lust for you, but I was just thinking that you're the mother of all my descendants. So I was just so pleased and honored to see you, and I had so much respect. She said, anyway, we don't follow the same principles here. He said, but I could never have any lust for you because you're my mother, or you're my grandmother, or great-grandma, whatever it was. She said, that's all right. We're not restricted by all those rules. So anyway, there was a long discussion, and Arjun couldn't be convinced, and she was so angry she cursed him. Any other questions? Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Question coming down from Brahmajyoti, and I always hear like two extremes of it. They probably forgot to say that. That prayer practitioner that fall down from realization, realization, but once you merge, and then you're on like the other side, that you're out, senses. active, so eventually this